I'm Scott Allen Miller. It's the 25th of April, 2023. This is my vlog of daily life living in Leon, Nicaragua, and today we're going to be continuing where we were yesterday, talking about border runs and how they work. And the question came up, why can't you do a border run to Honduras, or wouldn't it be more convenient to do it to Honduras? The answer is no, you need to go to Costa Rica, and the answer is because Honduras is part of the CA4. So right after the bump, we're going to talk about what is the CA4, what does that mean to you? Okay, so first of all, we are recording today on the new camera that I promised you, and I'm going to let you guys figure out what's going on with this and let me know what you think about how it looks. It's a very wide field of view right now. On the screen, I'm loving the colors and the whole brightness, but we're going to see what it looks like when we get it on editing, and I hope that it sounds good. I can see my audio, which is great, but it just went to sleep. I hope that's just because I'm still learning a lot about how this works, so we're going to be figuring that out. Today is also my daughter Luciana's birthday, so she turned 12 today. We celebrated a few days ago. You guys have seen the videos. We went bowling and hanging out in Managua and had a great time there, but today is her actual birthday, so today we had cake and celebrated all of that. Okay, so in yesterday's video, we talked about how you needed to do border runs and how they work. If you haven't watched that, go back and watch yesterday's. I'll wait, I'll pause, wait, I can't pause it, you need to pause it, but go ahead. Okay, we're back. You watched yesterday's video, you know all the stuff you need to know, and of course, we'll link in the description to the border run information we have from past episodes going way back, so you can go back and get all that information, because there's a lot you may need to know about border runs in general and Nicaragua. Okay, let's move on. What makes Honduras not an option for this? Well, you see, originally, long ago, when it separated from Mexico, the Central American countries, that is Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, were actually a separate country together known as Central America. They didn't last very long, and when they broke up, Nicaragua was the first to leave, and Costa Rica was cut off because Nicaragua separated it from everyone else. So Costa Rica left shortly thereafter, and eventually the group disintegrated. In the years since, the northern four countries, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua, have heavily stayed together in many, many different ways. And one of the most important ones is that they have created what's known as the Central American 4, or the CA4 border zone. That is the actual visa border or hard border to the region is at the southern end of Nicaragua, where it borders Costa Rica, and is at the northern border of Guatemala, where it touches Mexico, or its eastern border, where it touches Belize. Honduras and El Salvador do not have any visa borders of their own except at their airports. They only touch other members of the CA4. So the entire zone basically has free movement within it, has a single visa process for the entire group, and once you enter it, you're inside. This means a couple important things. One, if you need to reset your visa for tourism purposes, you must exit the CA4 because there is no visa border within the zone. That means if you're crossing physically without going through the airport, you have to cross either south into Costa Rica, east into Belize, or north into Mexico. Those are the only three land border crossings possible from the area. A water border, in theory, exists with Colombia and could be used, but I've never heard of anyone being able to do that. And of course, you can take flights from anywhere in the zone to anywhere outside the zone, and that counts. From Nicaragua, your only realistic options are the United States, Mexico, and Panama, but in theory, you could fly anywhere that you can get to. When you're going to do a border run, it is the visa reset that matters. So this is what you care about. This is why you can't go somewhere like Honduras to reset your visa, because technically you didn't cross a border, not a border in the visa sense. It is a national border, but it is not a immigration border. You're not going through immigration controls. You're not going through custom controls. Now I say that. I have gone through all of these borders, and there are quite a few controls, but it is just the tiniest bit less than going through a full visa border. It is still a border though, and there still is a bit of security. So it's not like the Schengen in Europe where you have absolutely free borders and they don't track you at all. And once you enter at, you know, Belgium, you can make it to Slovenia or wherever and just zip all over to all the countries and never even see a border, never even be completely sure what country you're in. That is not how it works. It is that they are soft borders, whereas Europe has non-borders. With the soft borders, you still have to go through, show your passport, verify your paperwork again, but the requirements are less, the checks that they do are less, it is faster than the outside borders. Crossing the Nicaragua-Costa Rica border is noticeably a lot more work than the interior borders of the CA4, so it's kind of a halfway measure. This has an important additional aspect that people don't necessarily realize or think about because it's so not apparent. But for those of us who travel in Europe heavily, you are familiar with the Schengen border problem that once you enter the Schengen zone, which is the name of basically all of Europe's border zone, when you're inside that zone, you get 90 days. It doesn't matter what country you're in, you get 90 days. When you need to reset that visa, you have to be out of the zone for 90 days. It doesn't matter which one you're in, it doesn't matter where you go, as long as it's outside. In 90 days, you'll be able to come back in. There are some complicated ways to do it. That's not exactly 90-90, but it's called a 90-90, and it's essentially how it works. Here with the CA4, you get 90 days inside the zone. That Nicaragua gives you 180 is a little bit weird, and you can use that to move around the zone, but you can't exit and re-enter without resetting. Right? And I don't know anyone who has used the extended period to travel into other members of the zone. I don't know what happens when you do that. That's something I'll try to research. I think it just gets honored and you don't have to worry about it, but I'm not 100% sure. But when you enter the CA4, all 4 countries give you a 90-day tourist visa. But that tourist visa is not to their country, it is to the CA4. So if you were to enter Guatemala, say you drive south from Mexico and you get into Guatemala and you want to spend a bit of time in all the different Central American countries, from the time you've entered Guatemala until you go south out of Nicaragua, you only get 90 days in all of those countries. So that's only 22 and a half days per country, or just over 3 weeks at each one. Now that's a lot of time. If you're doing some slow travel, working your way through in an RV or whatever, that should be plenty in most circumstances. But it's easy to end up cutting it close, and Central America is one of those places because it's so cheap and welcoming and easy. A lot of travelers end up getting here and spending a lot of time. It is not hard to end up in one of those countries, say, I'm going to stay for a while, and being like, oh, I'll just move on to the next country and get a new visa like I do in every other country anywhere in the world, and finding out, oh no, I may be multiple countries away from a hard border, and resetting my passport could be a problem. I have to go a ways to get to that visa border. So where that tends to happen, you come south into Guatemala, you hang out for a while, you slowly mosey your way down to El Salvador or Honduras, you discover something interesting there, maybe you go surfing at El Tunco, and suddenly you realize you need to get to Costa Rica really far away, and your visa is really close to lapsing. That's where it becomes difficult. You need to be aware that being in the zone means a single 90-day clock. Now, it's easy to reset. Just step into Mexico, step into Belize, step into Costa Rica. You're good. You are never impossibly far from a border, which is one of the reasons why they do it the way that they do. It does work, but you need to be cognizant of your time and track it. So that is why the CA4 is an important commercial and travel zone here, and it's nice for us that once you're inside that zone, it's a little bit easier to move around between those countries, and we appreciate that. I would really love it if they worked a little bit harder, and I know why they're not doing it now, but worked a little bit harder to make that process even smoother, that you could rapidly fly through those borders. Right now, there are a lot of problems, especially in Honduras and Guatemala, with cartels and gangs and violence, and El Salvador has done a lot to reverse that in the very near term, and Nicaragua has done a lot for decades to make sure that that is not the case here, and those countries are very fearful of opening their borders and completely making it a transparent free movement zone, because it would automatically create an influx of problems from neighboring countries, and so they can't do that at this time. But in an ideal world, Honduras and Guatemala would find some way, and yes, it's going to be super hard, yes, it's going to take a lot of time, but to get to Nicaragua's level of safety, and if we can get the zone to come up to that standard, then they can open the borders and safely move between all those countries and create a really big free movement zone that would just boost the economies and tourism dramatically. It would make it a lot nicer to live in this zone because locals would be able to get to interesting alternative locations with minimal effort, because these are 4 beautiful dynamic countries with great food, with great sights, things to see, but many Nicaraguans never even go to Honduras, even though it's so close, because it's expensive to do the travel. It is a bit of distance. They aren't sure of where to go, and safety concerns coming from such a safe country. People are very nervous of going to a very dangerous one, and so that does a lot to curtail even local travel that could be theoretically fixed. But that is the CA4. That is why it exists. That's why it's important, and that's what you need to know about traveling in this area. That's why you've got to use Costa Rica from Nicaragua or fly somewhere as your visa border reset. And Honduras is just never going to be an option. But hopefully we can use it for more travel in the future. Thanks for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe. Get down those comments. Let me know what you think about the video and audio for today. Is this better, worse, indifferent? What do you think? Do you know what the camera is? And because I'm going to do some cool stuff with this camera. I'm excited. I'm always excited with a new camera, but this one is very cool. I've been looking forward to this for a long, long time, and glad to have it in my hands. And this is the first test to this particular type of shooting. I've done a few tests with it just to make sure everything's working, and the feedback from Valentina is that it's really amazing. So I'm hoping that you guys like it too. And as always, if you want to support the channel, which is very much appreciated, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Scott L. Miller. I'll put the link above. And if you're looking for direct assistance, like hands-on, one-on-one assistance with me or my team with relocation, whether it's advice or actually hand-holding you through the process, or getting you a lawyer, getting you medical concierge services, whatever you need for relocation, travel, tourism, if you need a tour guide to help you take you around to interesting areas and help you learn about the country or neighboring countries that you may be considering and figuring out where's the right place to move, reach out to us. Info, again, right up here, info@relocatenicaragua.com. As always, share on social media. Put it on LinkedIn, put it on Reddit, put it on Twitter, Facebook. Let people know, tell your friends, and I will see all of you tomorrow.